Salute to you all. The brave never fall. This is probably the earliest podcast I've done as far as me waking up and doing one. So if my voice sounds like I just woke up, it's because I just woke up. But I often get people asking me questions online. And when I get up in the morning, I always check, and I always have messages, someone asking a question or they're leaving a comment. And a lot of times these messages I share with everyone are based on other people's experiences, because each one of these videos and these podcasts are tailor-made for at least one person. Meaning, it doesn't matter if this message reaches thousands of people, millions of people. Numbers don't matter in this equation. It doesn't mean that if one person watches this podcast or listen to this podcast, or 1,000, it doesn't mean the value of it goes down. The value goes to whoever benefited the most from it. So if that's one person, I did my job with this video, which is why I do them, because a lot of times these videos are not made just randomly. They're made because people need guidance, and sometimes they need it in just one little area. And that one video that they can listen to over and over and over again, when they know this is something they struggle with, is beneficial. It's how I learned how to become a better person. It's because I listened to the same thing. I focused on something and I just listened to it thousands of times until I had it imprinted in my head, and it was disciplined in my routine every single day. And that's how I've learned how to do it. Just every little thing that you do has to be a focal point. You have to take that focal point and you focus on that, and only that, until you feel like it's part of your life. That's how I do it. I don't recommend that for everyone. Everybody heals and recovers and learns discipline and purpose their own way. That was how I did it. I chose to do one brick at a time, focus on that one thing, and then move on to the next one when that one thing was as good as I could possibly get it, near perfect. And once I did that, I realized, I'm building something very, very beneficial to my life, because it's one brick at a time. I'm building up a structure one brick at a time, but I got to make sure that one brick and that one thing that I'm doing is the focal point. It's the priority. And that's how I built up. So when we get into, if you notice a change in audio, it's because I decided to go for a little bit of a walk, and I'm going to finish this podcast outdoors. And I wanted to get to the next point, which is the priority of your life should be loving and understanding yourself as fully as possible, because those things are the best things you can do internally for yourself to deal with everything externally. You're going to walk a path, and no matter how long you walk that path, you could have a good 20-year stretch, and then something will happen and bring you down lower than you ever thought you could be. But when you've already come to know and love yourself, you know what you can and can't deal with. And I've found that one of the ways you can really learn how to do that is by accepting everything you don't have already as a challenge, and as a wake-up call, and as something you can feed off of to better certain aspects of your life. So if you're in a relationship that isn't great, you can start asking those questions of why. And don't ask yourself questions of just why it's not great because of something someone else is doing to you, or some situation that is happening to you every day that's making you feel like it's not working. Basically meaning hold yourself accountable. Start with yourself first. Don't go to the excuses. Go to the realities. And the realities start with you. You can't hide from them. And I think going to excuses are so easy for people because it's not about you at that point. Those are things that are happening to you that are unfair, that are untimely, that you don't have help with, things like that. They're just excuses. You haven't stopped to think, well, if those things didn't happen, would that make me a better person? No, you're still the same person. You're just super aware of it now because something bad is happening to you, instead of it being masked by everything good happening to you. When you love yourself, you learn that the most important time to love yourself is when you feel like you have no reason to love yourself. That's when your body starts getting confused, because you're going against the grain at that point. Your mind will play games with you. It wants to go to somewhere comfortable for you. It cares about you, but it doesn't care for you as much as your heart does. Your heart wants you to be safe. It wants you to feel nurtured. It wants you to feel like you have the tools in life to get through everything. But it also wants you to love and have compassion. And well, not for everyone, obviously, but for the most part, most people, their hearts are good. And they started off good. Experiences can make people go to places where there's no coming back from. And sure, genes play a lot in that. We're all genetically different. Who we come from is very important. But I've learned through personal experience, who you come from does not necessarily mean that's why you need to be who you are. That's not an excuse if you're making it one. If you're saying you can't be a better person because your father isn't one, or your mother isn't one, or your closest friends aren't good people and they're rubbing off on you, what does that say about yourself? You're basically saying you don't love yourself. You're saying you don't understand who you are, that you're lost. And you're openly admitting that if you say that. I always felt like when you make too many excuses about certain things you have a lot of control over, when you make those excuses, you're essentially saying you don't understand yourself. Because you're trying to ignore certain things about yourself to make those excuses. And believe me, I know, I did it a lot. Way too much. I made excuses about everything. It just felt better. Because that means it's not about you. You're waiting for something good to happen. And that word waiting scares the crap out of me now. Because I did it for too long. And luckily, I got to a point where it stopped. And now I feel like I have many years ahead of me where I'm not waiting. I'm acting. I'm going and getting what I want. I'm not going to wait for anything. It may take a long time for me to get it. But I'm already in the process of getting it. I'm not hoping something good happens to me. I'm going to go make something good happen for me. I'm not going to sit around and wait to make a lot of money. I'm going to go make my money. I don't need friends and family to hold me on a pedestal to make myself feel good. I know I can make myself feel good because I know I'm doing the right thing. When you get to a place where you know you're doing something that is good for yourself first, everything else you do from that point is going to feel even that much better. Because you know that you overcame a choice. You chose to start working on yourself and believing in yourself and loving yourself and understanding who you are. And then everything's great. It's almost like you're your own friend. Everything brightens up. Everything becomes high definition. Everything becomes an adventure, a new experience. You want to learn more. It becomes a lifestyle, routine, discipline comes into place. And I've been stressing that so much lately, that self-discipline equals self-love. They're the exact same thing if you think about it. You know, when you start getting disciplined about things in your life and you start making things routine and they're all healthy, you are going to become a good person and people will notice that. But more importantly, you're going to love the fact that you're more disciplined, that there's a routine in place and it's all good. It's nothing bad about your routine. And you're prepared, because the good thing about being in routine and being disciplined is that anything that pops up, you're ready to face them. That's where coming into your own means. When you understand yourself, you know I can overcome anything that comes at me today because I've already done it. I've examined every negative aspect of my life, everything that I wanted to work on, all the inconsistencies and all the weakness that I had, I've overcame them. And one of the best ways to do that is just go back to some of your more vulnerable experiences and situations with people, places, family members that were pressing your buttons, and friendships that didn't last that you thought were much better friendships than they actually were, jobs that you thought you loved but it was causing you a great deal of stress. All that stuff, how you dealt with those situations and how you got through them, go back and examine those the best you can, the best of your ability. Try to remember how you examine them and think about how you are now. Would you handle those situations the exact same, or would you handle them worse or better? And I do that all the time. I can look back and say, I know I've grown because I would handle this situation completely different. This is why I highly recommend meditation and reflection on a daily basis. Because try to visualize yourself at any point in your life, especially the moments where you felt weak, scared, afraid, high anxiety, you're having panic attacks, you you feel abandoned, you don't feel loved, you don't know who you are, you have no vision, you have no purpose, you just feel like your morals are not on point, you feel unbalanced. I find meditation to be extremely beneficial, because then you can place yourself wherever you want to be. Your mind will let you go anywhere you want to go, good or bad. And you can place yourself back in situations and replay them, but do it in a much better way. I did this so much in my quest to balance myself out and be the best version of myself. And I still do this every single day. I will put myself constantly back in really bad situations, but with the knowledge and experience that I have now, and the balance and the mindset now. I have a hardened mind, and my heart has focus. And I'll put myself back in that situation, and I'll replay the whole situation. It could be days, it can be hours, it can be minutes, it can be years. It doesn't matter how long the situation is. Just put yourself back there, but this time replay it all with the new you. Every time I do that, when I'm done, it feels a little weird at first when you do that, but just try to give it the most vivid, accurate account that you can remember of certain situations that brought you to your knees and broke you, and just put the new self in there and say what you needed to say to that person in that moment. Some of the things that you regret saying to that person, change those words. Some of the things that you didn't say, you can say them now. You can walk out the room. You can choose to leave that person. If you're at a job, you can do that job much better. You can figure out better relationships with people at work to make your day easier. Maybe there is somebody you should have talked to more at work to better understand your job. And then you can still do that with yourself. When you were alone, then you know you were doing things you shouldn't have done. Maybe you shouldn't have drank that extra beer. Maybe you should have went for a run that morning. Maybe you should have filled out 2 more applications instead of selling on that one job that you kind of didn't want, but it was just a little bit easier, not as challenging. It paid a little less, but you didn't challenge yourself to get the better job because you were afraid of failing. All those things, the fear of failing, the fear of loss, people abandoning you. Picture them people still in your life today, in your lives today. If you still want that person in your life after they abandon you, you can go to meditation and kind of play out how they would fit in your life now. Would they fit in your life right now with the person you are now? If you're a better person and you love who you are and you understand who you are, some of those negative experiences, if you can drag them into your world right now, would you do it? With some of the people that you still to this day you hold on to as great memories and great experiences, and you still find yourself thinking about them, would you want them in your life every single day? When you think about that and you can actually close your eyes, meditate, get yourself in a place where you're free enough, where your mind will allow you to go back to those places. And if you feel emotion, that's even better, because then you know you're there. And it takes time. It took me a long time to do it. And I just encourage people, I'm not going to do it here. Maybe in the future I'll talk about how I meditate and some of the methods that I do it, because my methods of meditation are completely different than anybody I know who does it. But I feel like everybody has their own version of it. Some people do it for hours. Some people do it for just a few minutes. In a podcast in the future, I would definitely share with you my meditation strategies and how I have kind of morphed them into something that works for me so well that I feel like if I don't do it, I am hurting myself every day. It's such a part of my day, and I don't even have to take time to do it. I'm doing it all the time. I'm meditating. My mind is all over the place, and when it starts to wander, I've found ways to bring myself back to who I am. And that's that self-love and self-understanding. I care about myself enough to know that I cannot allow myself to get so unbalanced that I don't know who I am. And I especially cannot do that with outside influences having such an impact on me where I feel like I'm out of control all the time. You have to have people around you that hold you to a high standard, and you have to hold them to a high standard. You have to have a place that you work that challenges you. You might not like it. I have a job right now that is very, very hard, and I choose to keep pushing forward with it because it's challenging for me. It's hardening me up. It's making me understand that any other job that I have that I actually do want, because this job is great, but it's not something I feel like I'm going to do the rest of my life. But I like that. It's very hard, and I know I'm not going to have to do it forever. So it's a nice balance for me. it's toughening me up. I'm experiencing something I never experienced before, and I think that is how you grow. You have to get out there and fail at things that you never thought you would ever do. I love marathon running now. I didn't a year ago. It's just one of those things. I challenged myself to do something I never thought I would ever do, and now it's one of my biggest passions. And it's one of the reasons why I am the person I am today. I wake up every day. I have a purpose. I need to be the best runner I can be. So physically, I got that one covered. Mentally, I try to learn something new every single day. So I have that covered. I make it a point to learn something new every single day, something I never even thought about. I'll Google something, and I don't just read it. I'll download a podcast, documentaries all day for 6 hours. I'm learning something completely new. It has shaped me into a person who is very intelligent and aware of everything that's going around him. Even if it's something that has nothing to do with my life, it has something to do with someone else's life. So that makes me understand random people much better. The more you learn, the more you grow your mind, the more you harden that mind up, you'll start to understand people better. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about each day when you wake up. You don't have to have anxiety about maybe if you meet a certain type of person, that's going to be an intimidating situation for you, because you already know a lot about everyone, because you're getting more information about people and about what other people do. So you don't have to worry about having awkward conversations or being in a room full of people and not being able to talk. You'll be able to talk to anyone about anything because you're well versed in a lot of different areas, not just one. I feel like the mind is so important when it comes to it. I think so many people focus on their heart when it comes to self-love, and don't forget about your brain. Don't forget about your mind. Your mind, you need to conquer that more than you do your heart. Your heart's always going to be there for you. You can't live without it. You can't live without your mind. That's what happens when people are in a coma or they're regressing with Alzheimer's or dementia. The mind is gone, but their heart is still beating. Their heart is always going to be there. They're still going to feel emotion. The brain just will not allow them to express that, but the heart is there. So I always feel like I don't have to worry about my heart so much. My brain is what I need to work on, because that brain. One of my biggest mentors, the biggest mentor in my life, is David Goggins. He's the reason why I run marathons. He's the reason why I found out how to be who I am now, because he's all about hardening the mind. And the way you do that is you have to have an uncomfortable situation every single day, to have something you have to push through every single day that's challenging and is hard for you, but you make it a discipline thing where every day I'm going to purposely put myself in something that sucks and I'm going to overcome it. And it can be really small, but just do one thing every day that you're like, I really don't feel like doing this, and just do it. You're going to feel so much better. I do it every day. I'll pick something. I'm like, I don't want to do this, and I'll do it. But those little things add up, and your heart and your mind. But he stresses so much. The mind is the only thing in your life, in the world, in the universe, that will show up on time every time. The mind will show up on time every time. It's the only thing that will ever do that in your life. When you don't want it to show up and psych you out and break you down and make you feel like you're going insane, it's going to show up. It's trying to protect you, but at the same time, it's confusing you. You have to harden your mind up. You have to be in control of your mind, not the other way around. You have to. Because your mind will break if you're not careful. You will get to a place where there is no return. The ship will sail so far out that you will not be able to bring it back in. And that's dangerous. I've seen that happen to people. Because when you don't have control of your mind, you start making bad decisions. Those bad decisions add up. They add up really quick, and it's scary. It's a very scary thing when you start getting out of control like that, because if you go to a doctor, they're going to want to prescribe you medications. They're going to mask it. And I've also learned that masking your mind when you haven't really tried to overcome it yourself is a dangerous thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with medicating yourself and helping yourself out, but there does come a point where I've seen in people that they rely on those too much, and if they can't get them, it's even worse than it was before they were taking them. It was almost like they were better off just dealing with the mind thing better than the medication, because it makes you feel like everything's okay, and it's not. It's just masking the problems. You haven't healed anything. And it's why I chose when was dealing with my really bad anxiety issues not to do it. I chose to stop drinking because how I was dealing with my anxiety is I would have a drink, and I was never close to being an alcoholic, but I got tired of masking, even on the smallest levels, coming home and being like, oh, today sucked, I'll just have a few beers, and all of a sudden today was actually pretty good. Well, no, it wasn't. It sucked, and it didn't have anything to do with anybody else making it suck. It's because I sucked that day, and I was trying to drink those memories away. And I got to the point where I'm like, this is not going to work. I need to harden my mind. I can't do it. I cannot harden my mind if I'm softening it with a masking agent. Again, I never got to the point where I need to be medicated. Some people do, and it does help them, and I will never say it's your life. If it helps you, it helps you. But for those of you out there who feel like you want to conquer these things without any masking agent or any aid, and you feel like you're strong enough to do it, I recommend it, because it's very simple. You start with meditation, you start with self-reflection, you start with self-love and understanding yourself. And over time, if you feel like it's just not possible to do it on your own, then there are options out there. And that's a good thing, because we do live in a world now where if you need help, it is there. And that is a comforting thing. And I am happy that people are able to go out and get help when they need it, because self-love and self-understanding, it is your priority. It is something you have to do on your own. And even the choice to get help is that is still your choice. You made that choice alone. You can have help from people giving you guidance and recommendations, but ultimately it's your choice. Nobody can make you do anything. So my final message with this one is this: it's an important matter. This will be a subject that pops up throughout the journey of The Brave Never Fall, and I feel it's something that I will remind you often of, because it's so important. People forget about self-love and a complete understanding of who they are, and it doesn't become a priority because we have so many other things in our life that becomes a priority, especially when you have a family and children that you're trying to provide for. You feel selfish when you're only thinking about yourself. But the selfish thing to do would be not to think about yourself, because the more you love yourself and you understand yourself, and that's the priority, it makes the priority of being with your family and your friends and your children and your workplace, it makes it that much easier, because you have no doubt in your mind. You know what you're capable of doing. You know what you can withstand. You know what you're capable of doing if you fail, and you know how good it feels to succeed and overcome things. And you accept things as a challenge because you know one way or the other you're going to get through it. So challenges become fun to you. It becomes a routine. It's discipline. You look forward to some of those challenges because you know you're capable of dealing with them, because you have control of your mind. You're not lost. You're not broken. And you know that the journey never ends, and you're still learning. You're learning things every day. You're not taking anybody who is great for you for granted. If you have a spouse that loves you, don't take them for granted. Love them. You know, if they're treating you bad, get out of the relationship as fast as you can. Love yourself enough to do that. If you're in a workplace and you hate your job and it's causing you stress to the point where you can't sleep, leave that job. There are plenty of jobs out there. You will find another one. Don't give up on yourself because of external things. Things work out for you when you love yourself. I'm a living example of that. I can't believe the things I have in my life right now because I chose to be a different person and dedicate myself to loving myself first. And it rubs off on people. That positive energy will bring in so many beautiful, positive people in your life. You will be left in awe. If no one has told you this today, I love you. Continue to be strong. Continue to understand yourself. Learn something new every day. Challenge yourself every day. And remember, you are the key to your own success in your own life. Love yourself. Understand yourself. The salute is for you alone. The brave never fall.